The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Mike Willett with the National Native Network, a program of the Intertribal Council of Michigan. Welcome to the NNN webinar series on cancer risk reduction in Indian Country. This webinar is titled, We Don't Do Diets. This technical assistance webinar is being hosted by the National Native Network with Indian Health Service, Health Promotion and Disease Prevention, which offers technical assistance and resources for commercial tobacco and cancer prevention and control throughout Indian Country, and the Indian Health Service Clinical Support Center. Your presenters today are Charla Gordon, contractual dietitian with the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians at the Little Traverse Bay Band of Odawa Indians Health Center, and Sally Van Cise, Wellcoaches certified health and wellness coach, a nutritionist at the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. No commercial interest support was used to fund this activity. This activity is designated 1 contact hour for nurses and physicians. To obtain a certificate of continuing education, you must be registered for the course, participate in the webinar in its entirety, and submit a completed post-webinar survey. By the end of this webinar, participants will be able to distinguish reasons why diets for weight loss have not been effective in the long term, examine how the approach of dieting and weight loss can negatively impact emotional and physical health, and apply alternative approaches to promote healthy weight loss and wellness in mind and body for all clients. If you have any questions, please type your questions into the question box on the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Questions will be answered during the last few minutes of the webinar. Thank you, and now at this time, I am going to throw it over to Sally Van Cise.
Good morning, Ani, everyone. Greetings. Thanks for listening in. For today's webinar, we're going to skip over the objectives. You've already seen those. For today's webinar, we will be shifting gears a bit. All the previous webinars have been about amazing and powerful programs that focus on bringing a healthy lifestyle into the community. Today, Charla and I are inviting you into our dietitian offices so we can share our thinking rather than describe any program. We will share why and how we don't use diets, especially when dealing with obesity. We are going to discuss some of our approaches and then give you some resources to look into. Also, another heads up, we will probably run longer than the previous talks have. So I'm Sally. As you've heard in the introduction, I have worked for 20 years at the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe in mid-Michigan. This makes me old as dirt. And speaking of old as dirt, I was credentialed as a registered dietitian about 40 years ago. Since then, I also became an exercise physiologist and was recently certified as a wellness coach. I met Charla during my first year with the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe. Charla was a dietitian working for the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe. But let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm a person, a female in the United States, daughter of a mother who always thought she needed to lose weight. I too always thought I needed to lose weight and went on many, many diets. The truth is, as I look at photos of myself from previous years, I realize I was not overweight. Through these years, I've worked with folks who wanted to lose weight, and I mostly heard their anguish. I also attended conferences and read books, where I learned from dietitians such as Ellen Satter and Francie White. I became aware of the fallacies and damages that diets bring about. I learned about the importance of self-esteem as well as the enjoyment of eating for long-term success.
Hi there. My name is Charla, and I'm coming to you from northern Michigan today. I became a dietitian because a lot of my family members were struggling with their weight, mostly in part due to emotional eating. And like many young people, I thought I was going to go to school, I was going to figure this out and fix it in just a few years. My parents were both raised in homes with food insecurity, and the messages we received at the table growing up were to clean our plates because you never knew when your next meal would be coming, even though this was never really truly a worry in our home. As I worked through the years with my clients, I've learned a lot from them. And 25 years ago, when I became aware of the non-diet approach, it wasn't very popular. I think we're in a better place now, and I'm really glad we're having this conversation today. I'm glad you're joining us, and I'm hoping that we inspire you to think differently about some things, or that we help you maintain a steady course in a diet culture, weight-focused society.
So, as we said, Charla and I are dietitians. We're the ones to whom clients are brought so that we can fix their obesity. We are constantly asked about diets, whether they're safe or effective or the best. Invariably, we reply, we don't do diets. We explain that diets just don't work long term. People who have been on diets often end up weighing more than when they started. They cheat and then binge after the diet is over. Other outcomes are that they feel shame that they are failures. They are depressed as they see their weight increasing, and they believe that they can never be successful. Diets don't work. So here are a couple things to think about as you consider whether diets work or not. If Weight Watchers were successful, then they would be out of business, as would the entire dieting industry. Somewhere along the way, I heard Oprah say, "If money could buy it, I would have bought it." And here's another quote about Oprah. If Oprah can't do permanent lifelong weight loss, maybe it can't be done. Now Charla will share some data regarding diets.
So for a definition for this workshop, we're going to say that diet means a means of restricting your intake, whether it's with certain foods or there's a schedule, and the process of dieting is using the diet in an effort to lose weight. When I started, as I mentioned, 25 years ago, it was popular to say that the dieting industry was worth $40 billion. You can see that's grown. And what that entails, and that is the companies that promote weight loss, it's their franchises that they sell, the meal replacements that you can get, like Slim Fast, it's the non-nutritive sweeteners, it's the diet sodas, it's the diet dinners and other packaged foods, bariatric surgeries, books, videos, etc., etc. So you can see that our social values continue to focus on body shape and weight. And the only result of this is that it can be us feeling badly about our weight and an increased risk of disordered eating and eating disorders. So now I'd like you to sit back in your chair, and I would like you to take a moment and think about how many times you've ever been on a diet. What did you do? Maybe you need to just pick one, or maybe you've only been on, but what did you do? How did it feel? How long did it last for you? Are you still following that diet? What parts or part of that diet worked for you, and what part or parts did not? And the reason we're asking you this is we want to introduce the diet cycle. And you can think about this in terms of yourself or maybe for your clients. I like to think that a diet cycle begins with a bad body thought. A bad body thought comes about because I looked in the mirror and I thought, gee, I don't like how that looks. Or, oh my gosh, my 50th class reunion's coming up, or my 25th, or whatever. Or my daughter's getting married in a year, and I want to lose some weight. So I find that diet, and that diet consists of lots of guidelines or rules. It's going to tell me what to eat. It usually has a big list of forbidden foods. It's going to tell me what time to eat, where to eat. And remember, there's no focus here on internal cues or what your body wants or needs. It's all external guidance. Somewhere along the way, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, I've known people to last months, you'll start having feelings of deprivation. And it may be because you went out to eat with your friends and everyone was having dessert. or you went to a family gathering and you couldn't have your favorite food that's usually served. And you're very self-righteous, you're very good, you stay away from that food, but it starts to gnaw at you and you start having cravings. About the same time, you're also going to feel some cravings, maybe from some hormonal changes. But right now, let's think about that rebellious person in who goes, I really want to have a piece of lemon meringue pie, and that's not on my keto diet. So the cravings start to kick in. The rebellious 2-year-old is in there looking for some satisfaction, and we break the diet. Now, maybe this is at home. Maybe it's in the car after running through a drive-through. Maybe it's in secret, or maybe it's with your friends. But you've lost your momentum, you break the diet, and you move back to your original way of eating. So the person that's on this diet takes the shame, the blame, and the guilt to heart. They think they're responsible, that they are a failure, and so self-esteem is going to take a dive, and we know that it's the diet that's really to blame here. It's not the person. So then, because this is a cycle, we're going to start it again. Now, I'm going to click here again, and you've got this on your slides, but some physical changes that are happening is early in the weight loss plan, you're going to lose muscle and water. But the emotional thing that's going on here is a lot of people will have a euphoria, or they'll think, oh my gosh, I have found it. It's working for me. This is the one that's going to last. So you've got a little pendulum going here where you're just like, this is the one, this is great. And then on the other side, you're going to see that failure. And here's the changes in hormones we talked about. We're going to talk about those again in the next slide. And then towards the end, after we've broken the diet, we're going to regain our weight as fat. We've lost lean muscle, we've decreased our metabolism, and again, we feel like we failed again. So then I'm sure you've all heard of yo-yo dieting or weight cycling. And in our efforts to work with people, we see them on the other end of this. But a lot of times this starts with someone not feeling good about their weight. So let's say someone starts at 160 pounds, and we know that 10 to 40% of adult women have a history of weight cycling. So as we mentioned, you have a change in hormones. The hormone leptin is stored in your fat, and when you start losing weight, leptin kicks in and says, oh my gosh, I'm losing my energy stores here, you need to gain this back. So then we've got this hormonal urge to fight. Weight again is regained as fat, so you'll see a gain in your percent body fat. You will see that, remember that fat is metabolically less active than muscle. So now your dieter, your person, will need to eat less calories than previously needed to maintain their lower body weight. They will need less calories than a person of their same size who has never dieted. And remember too that consuming less calories in our calorie-laden society is very hard to do, and that we're battling a food system high in processed foods, which are manufactured and designed to make us want to eat more. We've lost the muscle, we're burning less calories, we've lost muscle tone. We have tendency now to have fatty liver and metabolic problems. We've increased our risk of diabetes, especially if we've regained more than we ever originally lost. We've increased our risk of metabolic syndrome and heart disease, and that is greater. The greater the risk of that is greater the weight change amount. We've increased our risk for high blood pressure. And one of the best things you can do as a health provider, or as a parent, or as a grandparent, or as a person who doesn't like their own weight, is to really step back and ask, is this a change you can see yourself making for the rest of your life? Anytime you see someone talking about losing weight, we know that short-term changes result in short-term results and can have damaging effects. So here we've dieted ourselves up, and this is what Sally and I see a lot. People will come in and for 10 years, maybe 20, they can tell us they've been on lots of diets and they have probably been on a diet all their life, but they have gained 100 to 150 pounds over the course of time. And it was interesting. I was just looking at charts yesterday when I was at work, and I could actually see this kind of pattern on a couple of my clients. And one of the things I would tell you as a provider is if you see this kind of pattern on your review of the medical record, this is a place where you can say, these are people I would like to refer to a registered dietitian. So, whoops, sorry, that was me. So there's a lot of research out there now, and I mentioned that 25 years ago we didn't have as much research, but our binge eaters are out there, people with binge eating disorder, and they're not going to jump out and tell you, hey, I eat for emotional reasons, or hey, I binge, 3 or 4 times a week. But one of the things we know that if we're prescribing diets, we are more likely to trigger binge eating, and we see increased rates when we do put people on diets. The bottom line for all of you out there, and I'm sure you've heard this, is that 95% of all dieters will regain their weight that they lost in 1 to 5 years. You've probably all read or heard about on the show The Biggest Loser. Most of the contestants were back to their baseline weight after 5 years after they left the show. So now I'm going to have Sally talk with you about how we learned weight loss diets can be harmful.
Thanks. So, right, before Charla and I came to want to talk to you about ways you can help your clients, we're going to share how we came to quit giving diets. First, let me clarify. Yes, a few people do well losing weight and keeping it off. They're given nutrition information, not a diet, by the way, but just general nutrition information, such as the plate method. I may see them once in my office, and then they disappear. And maybe 1 or 2 years later, I'll run into them in the clinic, and they'll come up to me saying, Sally, you've been so helpful. And I'm just like, what? And they say, I lost the weight, 40 pounds, and I've kept it off. I'm really excited. Thank you. And I'm happy for them. Most clients, however, do not have it that easy. Charla talked about various studies in the previous slides. Know that this data is real life. This is what we see about when we see our clients. We see those struggles and shame all the time. Just a personal note, it happened to me too as I dieted and then regained weight. It was and is really hard to see the agony of clients as their diets failed, and they regained and added even more weight. Both Charla and I, as we worked in separate areas of Michigan, came across the work of Janine Roth, Francie White, Ellen Satter, Marguerite Fletcher, Michelle May. These specialists boosted our understanding through their knowledge, experiences, and what many call alternative approaches to dealing with obese clients. Each of these people have written books, articles, and hold workshops. We list them at the end of our presentation. How often have you heard this claim that you need to lose weight to be healthier? I would like you to rethink this. Studies claim that a loss of only 5 to 10% of total body weight is associated with, note I said associated with and not causes, improvements in blood pressure, blood cholesterol, and blood sugars. The question is, could the improvements actually be a direct result of the lifestyle changes, such as eating, exercise, sleep, self-care, which also in turn accidentally result in weight loss? Could it not be true that the changed lifestyle factors and not the weight loss per se have caused improvements in those lab values? So look at the slide. It's kind of a chicken and the egg question. Is it weight loss that brings about improved lab values, or is it lifestyle changes that result in both improved labs and in weight loss? Now we'll move into what you can do to help the client when you are not doing diets. And by the way, all of the previous webinars have discussed programs that provide folks an excellent and fun way to change their lifestyle behaviors. It was really exciting to see them and listen. There is no magic formula. There is no one way to help anyone lose weight. Here are, though, some suggestions of what you might do. First, find out, what is your client ready to do? Meet them where they're at. Are they denying they have a problem? Are they interested but not able to make changes? Are they ready to go? Are they maintaining the changes, struggling, or most likely all of the above? Also clarify for both of you, what do they want? If a client is sent to me, I first get to know them a little. Maybe ask them what some of their favorite things are in life. Then I will ask them if they have any concerns about their health, their blood pressure, their blood sugars, their weight. If they are not worried about their weight, then I don't discuss it further. Use wellness coaches' techniques as you work. A wellness coach helps the client discover and determine their dreams and their goals. A coach is not the quote-unquote expert who gives answers and advice. If you are an expert, such as being a dietitian or nurse or doctor, you can share information with the client if you have asked them whether they want to hear your ideas or not. The coach assists the client see their strengths and challenges. Goals are presented as experiments from which to learn. The coach helps the client focus on achievements and reframes failures as something from which to learn. I often bring up Thomas Edison, who went through a lot of trials and errors as he learned to make that light bulb. He figured out and built on what worked and what did not work, and then he went on to the next experiment. This coaching process is client-driven, not health professional-driven. Be aware, too, that what you do, your approach, knowledge, and beliefs will change over time, as will your clients. Energy and interest change with seasons as well as with years. Certainly working with a 10-year-old will be different than working with a 40-year-old or with an elder. As you age, you will definitely gain knowledge and experiences, and this may change your beliefs as to how to deal with your clients. A little while ago, I talked about healthy lifestyle behaviors and their effect on lab values and weight loss. To help your clients, Charla and I recommend you work with your client on these habits instead of aiming at weight loss head-on. What's nice, too, is that addressing these habits involves far less judgment than focusing on weight loss. Carrying over from the previous slide, consider adopting a coaching style into your work. Let the client, not you, decide what they want to work on. I've struggled with doing this, but I've learned that I can't be effective if I'm telling my clients what to do. It just doesn't work well. It also helps if you assist your client identify their benefits of these new habits. I've had people tell me they want more energy so they can play with their grandchildren. Coaches have a variety of techniques that let the client feel that they are respected and in charge of their choices. The client, not you, identifies their dreams and motivations along with their goals. The client, with support from the coach, decides how to go about achieving those dreams. They might, for example, choose to try yoga, eat more vegetables, to play grab-and-go meals, or to read in bed to help them go to sleep. Charla and I are going to do a little skit for you now to demonstrate what it sounds like to add coaching when you're working with someone. In the first scene, Charla is a health professional, quote-unquote, expert, and in the other, she uses a coaching style to address me. I'm the client. It might sound a little bit exaggerated, but here we go.
Hi, Sally. What's on your mind for our session today? In the past, you've raised a few topics such as a desire to lose weight and quit smoking. Which do you want to discuss today?
Let's start with weight loss because I've been so stressed I can't possibly think of quitting smoking at this time.
But Sally, smoking is so detrimental to your health. Did you know that more than 480,000 Americans die? Yeah, I said it, Sally, die from tobacco use. It causes cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and lung disease.
Yeah, I know, it's just...
Hey, you really need to make this a goal. Just cut it out cold turkey. It would be the best way to go about it.
Well, I guess you're the expert. I can try to do it for you.
Great. I like your enthusiasm. Now, about your diet. In the last session, you talked about your love of Starbucks.
Yeah, I can't help having my mochas at noon every day, but I have started adding veggies to my dinner every night.
Sally, do you know how much sugar is in those mochas? So many empty calories, and sugar is so bad for you.
All right, so here's our second skit.
I hope you're all groaning from that one. All right, take 2. Hi, Sally. What is on your mind for our session today? You have brought up a few topics in previous sessions, such as a desire to lose weight and quitting smoking. Would you like to discuss either of those today?
Let's start with weight loss, because I've been so stressed I can't possibly think of quitting smoking at this time.
Oh, sounds like a lot going on. You are really stressed these days then.
Yeah, so let's talk about my dieting.
You did mention weight loss. Tell me about how losing weight will make your life better. What is it you want to happen as a result of losing weight?
I can do things like not have diabetes and be able to play with my grandkids. They tire me out.
So you want to be healthier. Also, you want to have energy to be able to play with your grandchildren.
Yes, this fat gets in my way. I can't help having my Starbucks mochas at noon every day. Still, I have started adding veggies to my dinners every night.
How did you go about doing that? That is so great that you are adding veggies to your dinner. Veggies can help you get energy and make you healthier. Tell me how you were able to make this happen, please.
Okay, so the end. So we're just asking you to ask yourself, how did that feel to you? Even though these scenarios were exaggerated, can you sense a true difference in the two styles? This is what coaching is. It helps the client feel connected with you, as well as be more positive about their behaviors, choices, and possibilities for success. Here's a short list of things to consider when you are concerned about a person's weight. These are things that might be in a person's backstory. So food insecurity. Food insecurity was talked about in a previous webinar, discussing a project that addressed food deserts. The food desert is one type of food insecurity, which is a situation where people do not have enough food available to them. Be aware that dieting mimics the same mentality. Foods are restricted, and the good foods are not allowed, or are allowed, but only in limited quantities. As a result, the client is often hungry and always thinking of or even obsessing on food. They may binge as a result. When you're hungry, you can't think of anything else. Sleep. When a person does not get enough sleep, the production of two hormones, leptin and ghrelin, is altered. As a result, a person feels hungrier than usual, and when they eat, they don't feel satisfied, and so they eat more. People working night shift may be sleep deprived.
Take a minute to explore people's usual snack and meal patterns. And this is important to do with all people. You know, I've had lots of people who fall under the radar because they're really thin, but they're eating one meal a day, and the rest of the day they're smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. And, you know, they're not very well nourished when they're doing that. Find out how your client eats. Do they skip breakfast? Do they munch into the night? Do they allow themselves snacks, or do they graze, planned snacks, or do they graze through the day? How they eat will affect their energy level, and you can explore their energy. Like, do you have good energy to get through the day, to get all your tasks done? But you can talk to them about their meal and snack patterns. You can also see what they're eating in addition to their pattern. What is their usual snack? Is it something from the vending machine, or did they bring some nuts and an apple? Do they put together some good protein, lean protein, with some complex carbohydrates so that they have immediate energy and then something to satisfy and sustain them? So explore snack patterns and meal patterns with your clients.
Food preparation. It's often said that those who know how to cook and like to cook tend to eat better and healthier. Charla, what's a resource for this?
Well, in this state, we have the Michigan State University Extension Program, and their workers, they're home economist types, and the food and nutrition people will actually come and work with our tribes. And we do cooking classes. They'll meet us out at the gardens and bring a snack. They've got plenty of recipes. They'll go to people's homes. It depends on which county you're in for the level of services that they provide, but it's a great way to improve food preparation skills. Some people are just not comfortable in a kitchen and afraid to even tackle a recipe.
And I understand that the extension programs are in many states, if not all of them.
That's right. So family and community gatherings, these are important parts when we work in tribal nations. These are important tribal communities. These are important things to eat and gather together as a family or as a community. Encourage your clients to include more traditional foods at these events. I had a very wise elder say to me, we didn't get diabetes because of eating corn soup. And he is right? He's so correct. Encourage your program planners. And I think this is a big one. Sometimes we'll throw together a meal and we'll pick pizza and pop or chips and dip and pop because it's cheap and we know the teenagers like it. But we can use those same resources to make chili or to do cornbread and have a nice, more traditional style food that encourages people to have good nutritional health rather than just fill their bellies.
Emotions and stress. Be aware that food can be used as a coping mechanism for emotions and or stress. People do use food instead of alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes to deal with painful or wonderful things in their life. Jeanine Roth's book, When Food is Love, describes her story of using food to cope with her life.
So how are your clients doing with fast and convenience foods? I have a couple of people I'm working with that are eating 2 to 3 times a week at the convenience or the fast food places. And they talk about how they're spending $25 a time there. And we talk about the cost. We talk about how it's harder to get nutrient-dense foods there, that we're really trying to get more whole foods. So then we talk about, we meet them where they're at, and then we talk about, well, what could you add to that meal to make it more nutritious? So now I have families who carry fruit in the car so that when they do eat at the fast food places, they've got some fruit to add to it. You work with your clients to pick the healthiest choices at those convenience spots. And again, find your resources in your communities to learn how to plan, fix, and make foods that can be ready when families come home to eat so that they don't have to stop at the fast food places.
And dietary needs. I use this meal plate method handout all the time. It's a simple way of looking at nutrition, showing how to eat healthfully. It shows food groups set on a plate, divided like a picnic plate, with familiar foods that give an idea of what each group includes. Note this plate is different from the USDA plate. It has low-starch veggies filling half the plate and fruits on the side. This plate method is great because if you eat this way, you automatically get all your nutrients and vitamins and minerals, and you don't need to go to school to figure it out. Plus, you don't have to be a dietitian to know if people are eating healthfully or not. Knowing the plate method, you can see if someone is missing any food groups. If so, then they are missing nutrients. Maybe you can get to see them. Maybe you can get them to see a dietitian. By the way, this style plate with the low-starch veggies, yes, half the plate, can be found if you Google plate method and diabetes. I made this one that you can see. IT actually helped do the circles, but I put the pictures and the words on it.
And we have attached this as one of our handouts for you today, so that's available to you to use, and Sally has given you permission to use that. So one of my favorite things, and I have to be careful because this can get into some weight talk here, but a lot of times when people have been on weight loss diets, they've really lost touch with their inner cues of hunger and fullness. And you can explore this with people. It's usually a scale of 1 to 10. This one looks like a speedometer. And with 1 being the hungriest you've ever been, you're starving, you're dizzy, you're irritable, you can't think straight. And I will usually walk through this with people, and they'll put their own words at each of these levels. And then on the other end of the scale is stuffed to the point of feeling sick. And a lot of times I talk about Thanksgiving stuffed, Super Bowl Sunday, you know, some big event. We try to talk about early signs of hunger and how do you recognize those? How will you satisfy those? And then what happens if you allow yourself to get too hungry? How does that affect your eating? I spend a lot of time with this. A lot of people really like this. I've given you 2 resources here for hunger and fullness charts or graphs. And, you know, you might find those are a useful tool for your toolbox. So yesterday I added this picture, and it's not in yours, but it matched a proverb that an old teaching that's been around for a long time. Sometimes Buddha has been recognized as saying it, but the person I'm going to quote is Abraham Maslow in 1966. He said, "When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail." And I'm afraid we've become like that when we look at our clients, sometimes we say, well, hey, if you just lose some weight, you'd feel better. And I think we've become overly reliant on a familiar tool, and that's called the law of the instrument. We're going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about weight stigma. And I'm wondering how you feel about large-sized people. Weight stigma is the discrimination or the stereotyping that we do based on a person's weight or size. Again, more research that shows that it's significantly affected rates of depression, low self-esteem, and body dissatisfaction. We know that we may be passing along weight stigma when we offer programs like weight management programs, and we have people there, and we see that 79% of those people might go home and cope with the stigma they felt in that classroom or group setting by eating more food. So where is your bias? And I used to teach at the university, and I would have my students do this. I would ask them, what do you think when you approach a client? And when we think about weight loss, we have all sorts of words we use. We go, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so stupid, I'm such a failure. You might hear from your provider, you're amazing, you're great, look what you've accomplished, keep going, girl. And so some of that can be pretty damaging too, all that judgment kind of calls. And when Sally talks about well coaching, that's one thing we don't do, is we do not add our opinion about how they're doing. We bring them along and let them tell us how they feel they're doing. I would like to encourage you to look at this test that you can take. It's called an implicit association test. It's at a Harvard website that I've given you here. And when you get to the website, you're going to want to click the icon that says take a test. And there are lots of different implicit association tests listed there. The one you might be interested in doing is the weight one. So you'll click that. Sally mentioned we have got a big list here for you of resources and programs. When I look at Health at Every Size, those folks have been around a long time. They support people of all sizes in finding compassionate ways to take care of themselves. It's a good resource for both providers and clients. The Well Coaching program that Sally and I both attended is through wellcoachesschool.com, and we were very lucky. Michelle Archuleta, our HPDP consultant for the Bemidji area office, has been offering the opportunity for people to go to become a well coach for the last 6 years, I think it is. You can either go attend a 4-day program, or you can do an 18-week online program, but become a certified well coach. And if you want to call Michelle or email her, she'd be glad to talk to you about how the Bemidji area received that funding. Ellen Satter, I feel like I grew up with Ellen Satter. Ellen Satter helped me with my children. She's most famous for her division of responsibility in feeding children. And when we're looking at preventing obesity and working at those type of things, you might look at the work, if you work with children, you might look at Ellen Satter's work. If you are on the other end of things, you're working with people who have been yo-yo dieting, she has a special training program for that. Janine Roth, Sally mentioned, she has been around for a long, long time. She has some really good books. She herself suffered from bulimia and too many weight loss diets. She writes about that. The Intuitive Eating website is an interesting place. You can get training in intuitive eating. Am I Hungry is newer to my list. That's Michelle May's program. She dives into mindful eating. Francie White, Sally's more familiar with her. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, but Francie's still around. She's a dietitian that really introduced me to the fact that what's going on inside is what is going to affect how you eat and how you see yourself. It isn't the weight, it's more about self-esteem and just knowing who you are.
And then Miigwech Fletcher, we mentioned her earlier. She's really new on my resource list, really just since February. And she belongs to a group called Weight Neutral for Diabetes Care. And a lot of these resources are what we call weight neutral. They're not promoting weight loss, but they're looking at health from a different angle. Sort of from the approach that maybe we've been doing some harm by putting people on all these diets, and would this be a great thing to try instead because the diet isn't working? And that's just an interesting place to go explore too. So I pulled this, and I should give them credit. This was off the Intuitive Eating website, but this is a really good review of weight-centered health and how we can look at something different. And then some additional resources. Again, intuitive eating. It's fun to look at the 10 principles of intuitive eating and maybe tackle one a month with your clients or something like that. A lot on weight stigma. There's something I would add to this weight stigma list that I thought about last night. If any of you remember the videos, it was an HBO production called The Weight of the Nation, and they had a 20-minute video called Stigma, the Human Cost of Obesity, and that is just excellent. And you can use that if you were doing training for your staff or wanted to discuss it as a staff, how we're approaching people. Books. Doesn't seem like we read many books anymore, does it? Some of us. We're all on the internet. But two books that we really have enjoyed, we looked at and read in the past. Again, I bring up Miigwech Fletcher here, and she has a book called Discover Mindful Eating. And it's in its second edition, just in 2019. But that's a really nice guide for using 50 mindful eating activities with your clients, so that if you want to practice mindful eating, there are lots of ways to do it.
And I'll just mention the first book, Wellness Not Weight. It is a textbook style. So if you feel you want to work with more of a weight neutral program, you can get data and information off this book and then share it with staff.
Okay. And so last but not least, you're not going to be able to leave. We're going to say Miigwech, and we would love to hear from you. We would like to have more conversation with other providers about this. I would be really curious what all of you are doing out there, because I don't think we've talked about it enough. And so here are our contact information. Please use it. We'd love to hear from you.
We know we presented a lot of information. Our aim is simply to have you start beginning to question your use of diets as a solution for obesity.
And Mike, I think we're ready to take questions or comments.
Fantastic, and I think we nailed our time cue here. It's 3:44, so we did pretty good. We'll save about the last 15 minutes or so for questions and answers. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and put them into the question box into the GoToWebinar platform, and we'll ask questions and answer questions through until the top of the hour. So at 4 o'clock, just to respect everybody's time, we'll go ahead and cut it off at that time. So this first person says here, what is the name of the food and nutrition program that works with tribes? An extension program? Question mark.
That would be the Michigan State University Extension, MSUE. And each county, if you're in Michigan, each county has a county office, and contact your county and see what they have for you available.
They aren't necessarily a tribal program. They're a university and a national program. However, they're very interested in working with they're an amazing resource. They really are worth contacting, and they do a lot of work for me. They provide the cooking classes. I provide the clients. They do canning classes, and I know this is outside of Michigan. It's the University Extension Program.
All right. This next question was, what is the name of the movie in the resources again? I think that
the name of the movie is, it would be under the Weight of the Nation series, and they did 4 main videos, which were 2 hours each. But then they have a group of 10 vignettes, which are like 20 minutes, and it's Human Stigma, the Cost of Obesity. And it's a YouTube video you can get. I pulled it up last night. It's still out there. It's a May 2012 publication.
All right. Let's see here. This next person says, how does this work with patients with diabetes?
When we work with diabetes, as dietitians, we combine the knowledge approach, giving information with the coaching. It's the coaching style. So again, when someone walks in here, I'm going to ask them what they're concerned about, what they're interested in, getting to know them first, and just say, I'd like to share some information with you to help you understand about carbohydrates, etc. And they always go, sure, yes, that's why I'm here, of course. And then we talk about making changes in a coaching style. We talk about, is there anything here that you'd like to change, with your eating or with your exercise? What are you thinking? And then I remind them that these are experiments. I love that word, experiment. So this change, you're going to attempt an experiment, because with an experiment, when you come back, we can talk about what worked well and what didn't work well. You're not a failure. We're just finding out what doesn't work well and go from there.
And one of the things I do too is I like, if they're willing to do blood sugar testing, I like to work with finding out what your blood sugar is before you eat, because people have a lot of lists. Okay, I'm not supposed to eat this. I'm not supposed to eat that. And I talk a lot about meal planning, how you can work in all of those foods, and then encourage blood sugar testing, so that we're testing 1.5 to 2 hours after they've eaten that meal, so we can see the impact of blood sugar on that.
All right, and this next person asks, do you provide any family-based healthy lifestyle type programs?
Well, I can't say that I do right now, but I do see families in individual families in my office. So I'll work with the family that way.
When I work with families, it's usually the doctor has referred them, and it's up to I'm going to use the word kid. It's up to the child to tell me what they're interested in. Again, we get to know them a little bit, what they like in life. Usually there's a POP situation going on. Again, I share with the family the plate method. I share with them the problems with POP, but then it's up to them. Would they like to make any changes? So it's on an individual basis.
I really do like to start with where people are at. If they're eating, Kentucky Fried Chicken and corn for dinner, then I start there and I say, well, what could we add, or how many times a week? And we just start where they're at and individualize everything that I do. So I can't really tell you that there's one formula that I do, except that I individualize and I meet them where they're at.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think that earlier programs with the food insecurity, just making those foods available, has made a great difference in what people will choose to eat. And having meals that you're serving, showing people this food's delicious. Those are the family programs.
And we haven't actually started it, but we have a plan where I will be going to the commodity food program and I will be cooking there and offering ideas and recipes for new ways to use the foods that are available on the commodity foods program.
Awesome. And then real quick, again, we're going to be archiving this webinar too. So if you know of anybody that may have missed the presentation today, keep your eyes open at keepitsacred.org, which is our website here for the National Native Network. And we'll have the webinar archived up there, hopefully here within the next hour. And we'll also announce it out on our social media platforms as well, which are on the screen. So make sure to follow us there. And we will be having some upcoming webinar announcements probably pretty soon as well. So after we get everything finalized on that front. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the question box. We'll keep going through questions here for the next couple of minutes. This next person asks, do you have any comments in obesity code? Jason Fong.
I don't know.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
Okay. This next person here says, do you work with tribal CHRs to help educate?
Yes. You know, I think I work with my CHRs. They come to me and they talk with me about things all the time. If you're asking me if I'd love to come and educate tribal CHRs, I would come and do that too. Sally says she doesn't directly work with her CHRs.
Mm-hmm. I do, but they're working with me, and their input is what I want. I want to stop being a dietitian and be offering something that community members will be interested in. So I really take input from my CHRs as to how to present a program or exactly what the program would be.
This next person here says, how do you work with medical doctors who always blame overweight and obesity to all health issues?
Gently, but persistently. Charla, do you want to?
You know, when I was a dietitian early on, you just didn't fight with them. And now I feel like we have more of a voice. We go talk to them. And now my doctors that I work with now are more likely to say dietitian's choice. And they let me take it and run with it. So, you know, I'm limited. I only work in one small community right now. So my life is pretty good. But I think it's also because I keep presenting things to them and talking with them or sending them something and saying, hey, have you thought about this? And I'm hoping that my clients are also going down there and saying, hey, I like what I'm learning up there.
So I've given, as I said, I've been here a long time. I do presentations. When doctors come in, I tell them, I meet with them individually as part of their orientation and just tell them the approach that I use with the plate method and why diets don't work and that I don't do them. But this is what I do instead. You can get data if you need data from that book that we mentioned, Wellness Not Weight. I said it's a textbook. Individual, I just keep doing in-services here and there, as well as talking to the docs individually.
And you can do an internet search and you can find a ton of information. Go to these websites. The Michelle May, if you really are having struggles with doctors, Michelle May is a medical doctor, and she's doing presentations now to the medical associations and things, and she has good materials that I think doctors are more willing to listen to.
And this person here says, have you checked out the Healthy Active Native Facebook group page?
No. Thank you for that referral.
We're writing that down. Say it again. Native Active what?
Healthy Active Native. Healthy Active Native on Facebook. It's a group page.
Thank you.
And then this person here says Miigwech from a Nautawasepi Huron band of the Potawatomi tribal member and RD in Alaska.
Miigwech.
And if there's any other questions, you got about 5 minutes to go ahead and type it in there. Otherwise, if I don't see anything here in the next minute or two, I will go ahead and cut the webinar short a little bit early here. Everybody's contact info is on the screen right now for Sally and Charla. So if you think of a question later on, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer the question, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then
We'll
did you happen to have anything in addition that you wanted to share at all with Sally and Charla? We do have the handouts that folks can download. Folks can download a PDF version of these slides, and there's a handout as well of the plate, I believe, that Sally and Charla had shared with us too. But did you have anything else to add?
We always have more things to add, and I'm not going to bring them up because I've already said way more. We've just said so many things, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, I know
Charla,
this is
do you have anything else?
certainly be a helpful presentation for me as well. So this is great.
Charla's thinking here.
You know, I would be curious. I would be curious if you could share with me somehow what is happening at your facility, because I'd like to know where we are at as in Indian Health Service and Tribal Health Service programs. I'd like to know where we're at. And if people would like to start the conversation, maybe we could develop a group so that we have resources and that we're sharing with each other, because it is new. It's not always well accepted. We do live in this diet culture. I mean, we're spending $73 billion a year. And some estimates are that it's $80 billion a year. It's big business, and it's in our little voices out here in the wilderness. But sometimes our clients love to hear it. It's like, thank goodness someone is finally talking some sense to me, because I have tried so many diets and they did not work. So our clients are appreciative if we can help, if we can broach that subject with them.
This person here says, healthy active natives have a lot of people who have struggled with weight loss, and there's a lot of success stories from across the nation. Check it out. It's a great page. This other person here says, already printed the plate method to start to implement with my clients. Thank you.
Yeah.
And another
It's
person.
nice if you have a list. I have other handouts, so I have a list of all the low starch veggies, and then I contrast it at the bottom of the page with starchy vegetables, which is just basically any kind of potato, any corn, any green peas, and winter squash. But otherwise, I say veggies are unlimited, so that they can see on one page what the low starch veggies really are. And I print it on green paper like a veggie.
It's awesome. And then if you happen to have that handout, I can go ahead and add that into the webpage afterwards here too, if you'd like. Like if you have that as a PDF document or something.
It can become one. It's
Cool.
a Word document, right?
Oh yeah.
Get it to you.
Easy. And then this last person here says, we have several providers focused on adequate nourishment and referrals to RD for that, which has been very refreshing. The idea that the patient's current diet is lacking in high nutrient foods and refer to the RD for further guidance.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent.
Good.
Let's see here. This last person here says, have you seen the diabetes prevention program? It's about diet restriction and weight loss and is being pushed in states and IHS. I'm not sure what she means by that.
Yes. And again, that's where a lot of this came from, right? Is that the DPP proposed that we lose 5 to 7%. And that's that one slide. That's kind of where we were headed with that one slide, was that, okay, was it really the weight loss or was it the lifestyle changes that resulted? And remember, DPP did not get that amount of weight loss. And that's what the article I referenced there said, is they, at really, if you get 3% weight loss, and did it happen because of you made those positive changes. But it doesn't take much weight loss, if it's the weight loss at all, to get a big bang, a big impact on your triglycerides, your blood sugars, your blood cholesterol, your blood pressure. So is it the weight loss? Was it the chicken or was it the egg?
Was it the change lifestyle?
Was it I ate more vegetables? I decreased inflammation?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But we hear you. We know what we're up against. That's why we thought we would present this. This presentation just came out of the blue. It was just somebody asked me something, and I went, "We don't do diets." And they're like, "What do you mean?" Oh, so we thought we would give this presentation to explain it a little bit more.
Yeah, fantastic presentation too. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, if you know of anybody that may have missed today's presentation, keep an eye on our website at keepitsacred.org. Go to the resources tab, and under that you'll see webinar archive. And within the next hour or so, the presentation will be uploaded to keepitsacred.org, along with the handouts that were part of the presentation today. And with that, we thank you very much for attending, and we will see you later. Thank you.
Thank you.